is good, YouTube? It is your boy Super Rich JL, and I am here with another video. Today's video, we're going to be going over Schwab market update, and a lot of times I watch Earn Your Leisure, and I see they have Market Mondays. So what I want to do is just go over this article with you guys, and I want you guys to share your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's learn, let's educate ourselves, and let's dive into this article. So as you can see, hopefully you guys can see better on this article, and I just want to let you know that this came out June 2nd 2025 by Joe Mazzala. Sorry if I got your name wrong. The U.S. assets, including stocks, treasuries, and the dollar slipped as trade and geopolitical tensions ramped up. A host of job data is ahead this week, and Powell speaks today. As you can see, we have the markets, the last price, the change, the percent change right here, which we will get at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and dive into the article. So Monday market open. Trade could ultimately take a seat this week to jobs data, but don't cut off tariffs out as the new month starts. Stocks, treasuries, and the dollar sank early Monday after a weekend stuffed with trade news, including the promise of higher steel and aluminum tariffs, more tension with China, and the Trump administration vowing there'll be no extension of a 90-day tariff pause due to expire next month. China hit back early today, blaming the U.S. for violating the recent trade agreement after the White House accused China of violating Friday. Though major indexes have stalled a bit near recent highs after a strong May, a buy the dip mentality persists on Wall Street and may get tested today as tariff talks toughen. With retail traders, there's still a bias toward the growth of a trio of consumer discretionary communication services and infotech, along with the Magnificent Seven and the AI theme, said Liz and Saunders, chief investment strategist at Schwab, speaking on CNBC last Friday. That's not disappearing in the near term. At the hearing, Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller said Monday he's still open to rate cuts this year, but warns that tariffs could be the largest factor driving inflation. Investors brace for remarks at 1 p.m. Eastern Time from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. It's unclear if he'll discuss the economy, as he's simply introducing an event. Last Friday, inflation data was Benign. Excuse me if I do not know how to pronounce that word. I am so sorry, guys. But the full impact of the tariffs likely hasn't arrived. Job numbers dominate this week, building up a keystone May non-farm payrolls report Friday, expected to show jobs growth of 130,000, down from April's 177,000. It is quieter on the earnings front, but there are a few names to watch. CrowdStrike reports tomorrow, with Lululemon and Broadcom report Thursday. 3 things to watch. Labor data provide fresh look at hard numbers heading into a packed week of data that includes job openings, layoffs, unemployment, and non-farm payrolls. Recent numbers haven't indicated massive weakness that might get the Fed worried. Last week's slight gain initial jobless claims was an exception, but 1 week it is a snapshot. Excuse me, guys. My reflexes is messing up my speaking. The whole notion of labor hoarding is still valid, Schwab Saunders told CNBC, referring to a trend where companies are reluctant to reduce labor forces after scrambling to rehire workers after the pandemic. What we've seen so far is a big compression in hiring, but not a big expansion in firing. Claims are a leading indicator to watch. I don't know if this popped the initial claims to continuing claims translates into some sort of really negative print in the jobs report, but that's what to be on guard for. The question is, do we see any cracks in hard data following recent weaknesses in soft data? The test for hard data is this week's job numbers, but before that, investors brace for a 10 a.m. Eastern Time May ISM Manufacturing Index. Analysts see the May headline at 49.0 below, and 50 need the expansion a tad in April headline. Prices paid will get a close look despite recent solid U.S. The dollar retreated this morning to near its April lows amid renewed trade tension. That would normally be good for U.S. firms, the major market overseas, but the trade battle complicates their outlook. Trump administration eyes open as legal deadline looms. All right, so we are back talking about the Trump administration. If you haven't checked out the video that I made before this video, please go check that video out. The Supreme Court may ultimately decide if President Trump's reciprocal tariffs are constitutional. If not, the Trump administration is likely to come up with other means to increase tariffs, although they may be less arbitrary, limited in size and scope, or may take time to implement, said Schwab chief global investment strategist Jeffrey Clinton and Michelle Gibley, director of international research at Schwab Center for Financial Research. The litigation process could take several weeks. One option the administration could use if it loses is impose 10% to 15% universal tariffs using a different section of law, but for no more than 150 days. The first court deadline looms this Thursday when the U.S. Court of International Trade, which ruled the tariffs unconstitutional last week, must respond to Trump administration's appeal that allowed tariffs to stay on the books. And that sounded like a positive trade development. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday that he expects Trump's and Chinese President Xi, I'm not going to say his name, it's Xi, to talk very soon, that the recent feud over allegation violations will be ironed out, Bloomberg reported. Alright, so my takeaways is they're cracking down on the Trump administration because it's just messing up how everybody makes their money. Nobody can send off certain things. Nobody can send off nails. Nobody can send off hairs. Nobody can send off shoes. I recently just heard my girlfriend say that she had to get her shoes delivered to the Netherlands to get it, approved. And it's just like, we got to go through so much stuff just to get our products into the U.S. It isn't our fault that we depend on the foreigners to send these stuff. It's not our fault at all, because this is how things were created in the first place. Now, I'm not in politics, so I'm not going to keep speaking about Trump administration or politics. I'm just reading the article and finding out the information and the facts with you guys. I apologize if I am not a fast reader. I just don't want to be saying the wrong stuff. The third was the court battle could hurt trade deal hopes. Though last week's court ruling against tariff initially cheered investors, judging from the market's rally on the news, it began a new and more complex phase of the trade war. The trade negotiations likely will become more difficult, and there may be less urgency for countries to cut deals now, particularly for those less exposure to target sectors. Schwab's, Clinton, and Ghibli wrote, there may be some relief in the tariffs, may be less arbitrary and reduced in severity or duration, but the next steps are complicated and likely to extend uncertainty for businesses and the economic outlook. As this plays out, renewed market volatility is possible, and job stays tough. And the jobs stay tough for companies and Fed as they to assess the impact of tariffs on their businesses and wider economy. Though stocks and treasuries wobbled last week on tariff news, the market reaction toward trade-related headlines has been much more muted recently versus in April, said Nathan Peterson, director of derivatives analysts at Schwab Center for Financial Research. On the move, they got a lot to speak on. But before we wrap up with that, as you can see, everything is playing out. Everything is like they're cracking down on everything. You know what I mean? You can't just, change how we were doing things. But, as you can see, we're taking a big hit, guys. And it's affecting everybody. It's affecting every job, every company. There's companies that are shutting down, y'all. There are companies that are shutting the heck down. Moving forward, shares of steel maker Cleveland Cliffs rose more than 26% ahead of the open following President Trump's vow to raise steel and aluminum tariffs to 50% from 25%. Nucor, another steel maker, rose nearly 11%. Tesla dipped 1.6%, and Nvidia fell 0.6 in pre-market action as investors mule geopolitical and trade tensions. Tesla sales in France fell 67%, and Chinese electric car makers enjoyed a strong month in May, posing competition there for Tesla. Shares of biopharmaceutical firm Blueprint Medicines jumped 26% early today after French firm Sanofi agreed to buy immunology disease specialists for up to $9.5 billion. Barron's reported. Bitcoin slid this morning after recently posting all-time highs above 112,000. Last week saw President Trump's company, there's a fly I keep flying around my face, guys, which operates with his social platform, Trump Media and Technology Group, announced plans to raise about $2.5 billion from institutional investors to buy Bitcoin. What do y'all think if the Trump Media and Technology Group buys Bitcoin for $2.5 billion? I feel like Bitcoin should be worth way more, in my opinion. I don't know. As you can see, I'm only gonna read the like I said, the GC. This is what I will be on futures with. The GC gold climbed more than 2% amid signs of rising geopolitical tensions. Oil surged more than 4% early Monday, above $63 per barrel amid rising tensions in the Ukraine-Russia war. The rally came despite OPEC and its allies announcing Saturday that the cartel will raise oil production by 411,000 barrels a day in July. This is to punish countries that overproduce oil and to win the market share from the U.S. share drillers, Market Watch reported. Lastly, as of early Monday, futures trading indicated just 1% chance of Fed rate cut in June and 23% in July, according to the CME Fed Watch tool. The market builds in roughly 2 rate cuts in 2025, with about 75% odds of the first occurring at the Fed September meeting. Now, I would like to say, guys, a lot of you are not going to agree with what I'm doing. I get it. You don't want to hear about the stocks. You don't want to hear about all the markets. You don't want to hear. But listen, if you educated yourself and you just thought about it, you just sit there and think about it. You knowing information will actually help you. You knowing about day trading will actually help you. You knowing about the stock market, futures, options, forex exchange. You knowing about the, think or swim. You know what I'm saying? I figured it out. Last video, I had some trouble. I'm not gonna lie. I really don't know why I can't scroll over to the 9, a.m. But it is what it is. I will figure it out probably later on in my other videos, and I actually just want to see what happened this morning. You know what I'm saying? If you made it this far, guys, thank you for watching. Let's educate ourselves. Everything that I'm reading is for a reason. I'm trying to educate you guys and get you guys to see the different side and open your mind up. All right. All that being said, man, let's get into it, man. Get into the S&P 500. Get into the NASDAQ. Get into Tesla, man. Get into all of these markets. Shopify. People have been walking up to me and telling me about other symbols. If you don't know what a symbol is like the GCQ25. We can check NASDAQ. You know what I'm saying? See what they hitting on. I don't know why I didn't pull it up, but anyways, y'all can see what I got going on. Y'all can see, y'all see what's going on. All right, y'all see what's going on. I'm just putting y'all on game, and we will be trading. I'm just still doing my training. I'm still doing my analytics. I'm still writing notes. I'm still learning. So that's all I gotta say, guys. All that being said, thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video. We out.